Since Tuesday, the country has been witnessing violent protests against the government's Agnipath scheme. Trains are being set on fire, buses are being burnt, roads are being blocked. There's street fight between the protesting army aspirants and the police, and the Prime Minister's effigies are being burnt, with many protesting youths saying that the violence and vandalism will continue till the time the government rolls back the newly launched Agnipath scheme. So what is it about the Agnipath scheme that is causing all this uproar and mayhem? Why are the army aspirants up in arms against the government over a scheme the government claims will change the face of the army for the better and benefit the army personnel? Let's unbreak this news. It all started with this press conference by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh on Tuesday, where he made the announcement that the Agnipath scheme was cleared by the Cabinet Committee on Security.
आज कैबिनेट कमेटी ऑन सिक्योरिटी ने भी एक ऐतिहासिक फैसला किया है। आज का अग्निपथ नामक एक ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिव योजना हम ला रहे हैं, जो हमारी आर्म्ड फोर्सेस में ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिव चेंजेस लाकर उन्हें फुली मॉडर्न और वेल इक्विप्ड बनाएगी। अग्निवीरों के लिए एक अच्छी पे पैकेज, 4 साल की सेवा के बाद एग्जिट पर सेवा निधि पैकेज एवं एक लिबरल डेथ एंड डिसेबिलिटी पैकेज की भी व्यवस्था की गई है।
After the Defence Minister's announcement, all 3 service chiefs went at length to justify why the scheme would give the Indian Defence Forces a facelift and better the soldiers' lives.
The Indian Air Force shall be imparting a wide range of training and exposure to the agniveers in aviation, weapons and sophisticated ground systems. Agniveers who rejoin civil society will be job ready to be absorbed by a variety of employers.
On completion of 4 years of uniformed service, they will be a vital element in India's growth story, contributing to nation building through grooming, skilling and inspiring of future generations, while instilling and reinforcing a greater sense of nationalism and patriotism.
The new process heralds a paradigm shift in our recruitment process and will necessitate changes in the way we impart training to our recruits and soldiers in enhancing their combat potential.
The government also unleashed its PR machinery and released various promotional campaigns to disseminate information and to apparently dispel myths and fake narratives about the Agnipath scheme.
चलो अग्निवीर, तुम अग्निपथ पर ले देश की सुरक्षा की कमान। बने भारत के अग्निवीर।
म्हणून मला असं वाटतंय की हे जे अग्निपथ स्कीम आलेली आहे हे खूप चांगली योजना आहे.
ഇപ്പോൾ അഗ്നിപഥ് പദ്ധതിയിലൂടെ ഒരു അഗ്നിവീറായി മാറാൻ ഞാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുകയാണ്. അതുവഴി എൻ്റെ രാജ്യത്തെ തുടർന്നും സേവിക്കാനുള്ള അവസരം എനിക്ക് ലഭിക്കുന്നു.
With the government launching the new Agnipath scheme, more people will be able to enlist and achieving their goal of donning the uniform, leading to a greater sense of discipline, unity and patriotism among the populace. Plus, being an NCC Air Wing Senior Division cadet myself, this makes it all that much easier for me to fulfill my dream of serving my country by being an Agniveer.
But none of these PR and promotional campaigns really worked. In fact, it backfired. The government's Agnipath scheme met with unprecedented levels of agitation and protest in several states across India. Massive protests erupted in Bihar, UP, Rajasthan, Haryana, Andhra Pradesh, and many other states. Numerous instances of violence and vandalism were reported from various parts of the country, with the army aspirants going on a rampage, taking the law into their own hands and shouting slogans against the government. So what is the Agnipath scheme all about? Under the scheme, the government hopes to recruit around 46,000 youths in the non-officer ranks aged between 17.5 and 23 into the three services, the Army, Navy and the Air Force, for a 4-year contractual term. The personnel who will be inducted under this scheme will be called agniveers. After completion of the 4-year term, under the Agnipath scheme, 25% of the recruits will be retained for regular service and they will go on to serve a full 15-year term, and the remaining 75% will be let off. During the 4-year period, the agniveers will be paid a monthly salary between 30 to 40,000 rupees. They will be entitled to medical and insurance benefits. Following the exit from service after 4 years, the agniveers will get a package between 11 lakh to 12 lakh rupees, but they won't be eligible for gratuity or pension benefits under this scheme.
भारत सरकार ने हमसे हमारे आगे हाथ जोड़ जोड़कर 1 रैंक 1 पेंशन के नाम पर वोट मांगा था, और आज नो रैंक नो पेंशन का ड्रामा बनाकर हम युवाओं को बेरोजगारी में धकेल दिया है। हम ये तानाशाही नहीं सहेंगे। आपकी मांग पूरी नहीं होती है तो क्या करेंगे? हम जान दे देंगे, दिल्ली तक जाएंगे, जान दे देंगे अगर नहीं पहन तो। जान करेंगे। हम सब यहाँ जिंदा लाश खड़े हुए हैं। हमारे ही दोस्त 62 जो आज तक अब तक जो हमें पता चली है 62 लोगों ने फांसी लगा ली है। अर्थी दो या वर्दी दो, वर्दी दो। और दूसरी बात, हमारी अगर नहीं बात माने, हम यहाँ से रोड से उठाएंगे नहीं, चाहे आज हटाओ चाहे कल हम जाएंगे। हम मरे हुए समान हैं, हमारी सांसें छीन ली गई हैं। छीन लो सांसें हमारी, फिर भी जिंदा है। भारत सरकार के इस फैसले पर हम शर्मिंदा हैं।
Under the old scheme, youths aged between 16.5 and 21 years were selected for a minimum 15 years of service, and the recruits were also eligible for pension post-retirement. But under the new Agnipath scheme, 75% of the recruits will be exited from service in 4 years. Major General Harsha Kakkar narrates in an article the ordeal of the recruits under this scheme. A youth inducted from a rural background witnesses a lifestyle vastly different from what he has lived. His beliefs, desires and perceptions would change multifold in those 4 years. He would have led a regimented life, protected from the evils of society, while witnessing comforts even in the harshest of climates and terrain. After 4 years, he is dumped back with a few lakhs and left to fend for himself. His dreams come crashing down as he is compelled to restart life from scratch. So there are concerns over job security, but there are other concerns too. There are apprehensions that the scheme would change the composition of several regiments within the forces that recruit youths from specific regions and castes like the Rajputs, Sikhs and Jats. Many others feel that this could lead to the militarization of society. For instance, the recruits in 4 years get military training. They get weapons training. But the reduced training period is not enough to inculcate in them the true spirit of the forces. Many feel the haphazard and rushed military training will make some of the agniveers a danger to society. That apart, many critics feel that the 4-year tenure will hit the spirit of fighting amongst the soldiers and they will think twice before taking risks.
ये आपके लिए और देश के लिए दोनों के लिए फायदेमंद है।
मैं आग्रह करूंगा केंद्र सरकार से इस अग्निपथ योजना को वापस लें, क्योंकि सेना के साथ खिलवाड़ नहीं होना चाहिए और नौजवानों के भविष्य के साथ खिलवाड़ नहीं होना चाहिए।
जितना भी रिक्रूटमेंट होता है उससे कई गुना ज्यादा संख्या में रिक्रूटमेंट होगा, यानी आपको अवसर और ज्यादा मिलेंगे सेना में जाने के।
आज भी भारत की सेना में 1 लाख पद खाली पड़े हैं, जो बैकलॉग है। पहले आप इसको भरिए, उसके बाद इस टेम्परेरी नौकरी की बात करिए।
हर 4 में से 1 व्यक्ति को सेना में 15 साल और कम से कम नौकरी करने का अवसर मिलेगा।
लेकिन 4 लाख लोगों को 4 साल तक नौकरी देना, उसमें से सिर्फ 1 लाख बाद में परमानेंट नौकरी करेंगे, बाकी 3 लाख लोग दोबारा बेरोजगार हो जाएंगे। ये जो अग्निपथ योजना है इसका पूरे देश में विरोध हो रहा है। जिन नौजवानों के लिए इस योजना को बनाया है वही सड़कों पर आ रहे हैं, इसका घोर विरोध कर रहे हैं, उनके भविष्य को अंधकार में जाते हुए वो देख रहे हैं।
The government has been saying that the scheme gives a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the youth to serve the nation. It would change the face of the armed forces, making it younger, fitter and vibrant. But there are not many takers for these claims. For the past 2 years, the government had banned recruitment in the armed forces because of COVID-19. But at the same time, the retirement of the personnel continued non-stop. Many believe that the government first cut down the strength of the forces, stopped recruitment, and then when the recruitments were about to open up, the aspirants are being forced to either accept the Agnipath offer or not join the forces at all. Many retired army officers say that this could be the death knell for the armed forces. So why did the government bring in this new scheme? The growing pension amount in the defense forces has been a huge cause of concern for the government. For instance, in the 2022-23 budget, the total defense allocation was 5.25 lakh crores, of which the revenue allocation is 2.33 lakh crores and the capital allocation is 1.52 lakh crores. And the defense pension itself adds up to 1.19 lakh crore rupees. So the government's intention has been to curb the rising salary and pension budget of the armed forces. After the nationwide protests, bucking under pressure, the government decided to issue a one-time waiver and raise the upper entry age limit under the Agnipath scheme from the initially announced 21 years to 23 years. The government has also decided to extend a 10% reservation for all the agniveers in the Central Armed Police Forces and the Assam Rifles. The Defence Minister announced that 10% of reservation would be given to the agniveers in the Ministry of Defence if they meet the eligibility criteria. Bucking under pressure, the Defence Minister tweeted that 10% reservation will be implemented in the Indian Coast Guard and Defence Civilian Posts and all the 16 Defence Public Sector undertakings. This reservation would be in addition to the existing reservation for ex-servicemen. But the question is, are these moves and concessions enough to quell the protests? While it is true that the protesters have been taking the law into their own hands and this is unacceptable and must be condemned at all costs, the government must also realize that the expenditure it incurs on national security and our soldiers should not be seen as a drain on the state exchequer. It should in fact be seen as an investment toward making India safe and secure for its citizens. Undoubtedly, this scheme has not been thought through. The process of recruitment in the armed forces cannot be seen as a revolving door process where personnel come, serve for 4 years and leave. With more people exiting the force than continuing their service after 4 years, it may not give a facelift to the Indian armed forces like the government has been claiming. It might just make our defense forces faceless.